Democratic governors are going head-to-head with Republican attorneys general in their states over state lawsuits meant to repeal national health care reform. But is this a legal battle or a political one? Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell joins us live this morning. Good morning to you, Governor.
Good morning.
Well, we had heard, we had Bill McCollum from the Attorney General of Florida on last week, Thursday or Friday, and he was talking about how as soon as this was signed, they were going to go to court and sue the federal government. What they're saying is it's unconstitutional for the federal government to mandate that people buy insurance. You see this not as a legal debate, but as a political one, right?
Well, I do, because there is no legal question. These lawsuits are frivolous. Ronald Reagan's former Solicitor General, Mr. Freed, said that the idea that these suits could win is preposterous, and that's Ronald Reagan's former Solicitor General. There's no legal merit to them at all. It's just grandstanding by a number of attorney generals. And why would you want to take the immediate short-term benefits away from your citizens? In Pennsylvania, in September, it means that no child can be denied coverage because they have a pre-existing condition. It means 140,000 Pennsylvanians go right now into a high-risk pool, people who are so sick they can't get coverage. It means that 400,000 seniors will get a $250 check for the donut hole in the Medicare Part D program. If you're an attorney general, why do you want to take those short-term benefits away from your people? The way to get at this bill, if you don't like it, is to win the election in November and then try to repeal it or amend it or modify it.
But there are some people, Governor, who think it's bigger than elections, that it's about the Constitution. And I don't think you'll disagree. There is no constitutional precedent at all for the federal government mandating that you or I buy a good or a service. It doesn't exist on the federal level.
Well, the federal government gives us mandates.
How is that frivolous as a legal matter when 13 attorney generals elected by their state citizens, including the attorney general in your state who you're fighting with, how is that frivolous?
Well, first of all, it's not my terminology. That's Ronald Reagan's Solicitor General. So let's start with that, number one. Number two, this federal government can regulate and mandate us to do a number of things. We have to have a passport if we want to leave the country. That's a mandate. Insurance has been regulated by the federal government for decades and decades and decades. So, and by the way, the Massachusetts law, which was passed by Governor Romney, one of the leading Republican candidates for president, has a mandate in it, mandates Massachusetts get coverage, and that law was upheld by the courts. So this is an open and shut slam dunk case. Legal experts are saying that. This is political grandstanding. And by the way, why do you want to, if you're the Attorney General, deny the short-term benefits that accrue from this bill to your citizens? In the meantime, if you don't like the bill, try to
Governor, if I could just ask you this question. We've talked about this earlier. You're talking about a short-term benefit in terms of providing insurance to sick children with pre-existing conditions. There's a story in the New York Times that quotes insurance superintendents across the country and lawyers and people in government that's not, in fact, in the law that's signed by the president. So our governors and presidents...
It takes effect not immediately.
Not till 2014, isn't that correct?
No. 2014 for we adults. For children, it takes effect in September. And by the way, guys, did you happen to see in Crowley, Texas, a young baby by the name of Tyler Houston was born with an arterial defect in his heart, and the insurance company denied coverage to Tyler Houston because he had a pre-existing condition, a 2-year-old kid? That stuff ends unless the attorney generals are successful. That's what they're fighting to end, the ability to say no to insurance companies doing ridiculous things like that.
I think a lot of people on both sides of the fence, Governor, would agree with that particular condition in the bill. I think the point that Peter's trying to bring up this morning is that there's an article in the New York Times that says, in fact, something that both Republicans and Democrats agree on, giving insurance for pre-existing conditions to kids is not going to go into effect till 2014. So how could that happen with 2,300 pages in a bill? That
is for adults. For children, it goes into effect 6 months after President Obama signed the bill, so that would be in early September. You've got to distinguish. There are different parts of this. Look, this was a complicated bill, and most of it gets phased in over the next 4 years so that insurance companies, so that states, so that individuals, so that businesses could adapt to the changes.
Governor,
but some of the things go into effect right away.
Do you have the power to direct your Attorney General not to bring the lawsuit?
No, he's independently elected. And by the way, I have a great deal of regard for him. He's a good person and a good lawyer, and that's why I'm disappointed in him. He should know better.
All right, Governor, we thank you very much for joining us live today.
Thanks very much.
The elected Attorney General, I am an independent officer. I have a duty under the Commonwealth Attorneys Act. I have a duty under the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Pennsylvania to protect the rights of Pennsylvanians, and that I filed this lawsuit. As compared to maybe some other states in Pennsylvania, I'm independent at this point in time and have the right to bring this suit on behalf of the people of Pennsylvania.
So no matter how many times the governor of that state calls you or writes you, it's totally up to you, and is there any chance that you'll bend a little bit and think, well, maybe I'll let the other ones go ahead with it, the other states, because I'll get the benefit of it even if it rules in your favor?
Greta, no. The governor and I do get along. Obviously, we disagree on this point, and as you can see across this country, there are a lot of people that disagree on this point. That's the beauty of our Constitution, that although we have a disagreement, we have a court system, and the court system is going to make the determination as to whether this legislation passed by Congress is constitutional or not. We respect each other in that regard, and I respect the governor for what he does, and I know that he respects me and my decisions.
What about, and maybe this is a little bit cheap, but why not just let the other states' attorneys general go forward? Because if indeed this is declared unconstitutional, this mandate provision in the health care provision is that even if you don't spend a dime or don't spend a minute, you can sit back and reap all the benefits of it.
Well, Greta, if you recall, back in December, we sent a letter to the leadership in the Senate and the House in Washington, telling them that we were prepared to file suit on the Cornhusker compromise. That did not come about. We shipped it because of the requirement that individuals have to purchase insurance. I think I would be not living up to my oath to defend the people of Pennsylvania and just rely upon everybody else to defend it. I want to have a voice in this. We do. We have consultations with the staff and with the Attorney General McCollum on a regular basis so that we are involved in this litigation.
I suppose, too, and I guess I should admit that it's probably not going to take a tremendous amount of work out of your office. Somebody's going to write a brief on this particular issue representing the states, the attorneys general who have filed. Someone's going to oppose it, the federal government, and then it will be decided. So it's not like it's hugely expensive. Is that? I mean, that's my analysis of it. It's not going to be like lots of witnesses.
Well, Greta, that's exactly right. I don't think there'll be very many witnesses on this at all. I think this is going to be a lot on the pleadings. That's exactly right. It'll be on the pleadings, but we will work closely. As you know, attorneys general work together on many lawsuits. You mentioned earlier in the show the tobacco lawsuit and the hiring outside lawyers, but it's not uncommon for multi-state investigations to be conducted where our lawyers work together. We will be working with the Florida Attorney General's office on this one.
And am I right that what you object to in this legislation is the mandate ordering people to have to buy health insurance? That's what you find unconstitutional.
I definitely find that unconstitutional. I don't think that Congress can cause a person to make a purchase. As you know, what's in play here is the Commerce Clause.
Yeah, unless the Commerce Clause, and it's really going to boil down to how the Commerce Clause is interpreted. If it's interpreted very broadly, you lose. If it's interpreted very narrowly, you win.
That's exactly right, and that's the battle that needs to go to the courts, needs to go to the Supreme Court. Can Congress require somebody to commit an act? As in many cases, they look at the marketability of a product or something like that. But in a case like this, no, there's a free choice issue, and the people do not want to make a purchase. And as a result, if they don't make the purchase, there is a fine, there is a penalty that's going to be imposed for not exercising the opportunity to purchase. I think that's a bridge too far. I think that we all know that we need health care reform. We're not against that. We're not talking about that. What we're talking about is the Constitution of the United States, and really it boils down to, do the ends justify the means? And in this case, abridging the Constitution, to me, is not a justifiable means.
Attorney General, thank you. Of course, we have invited the governor on, and maybe someday, and maybe he'll come on next week to join us to tell us the other side, but he has an invitation. Thank you, sir.